are out, and quite frankly, I'm not sure who's more disappointed in them, the creators of the movie or me. So bad, it makes you wish AI would hurry up and destroy Hollywood. A shambolic film populated by some of the most aggressively charmless characters ever seen in a blockbuster. 1 out of 5. An ethically dubious, horribly written nadir and franchise slop. The worst film of the year, and a new low for Disney. And with Disney, that bar is so low, it's genuinely impressive when you can limbo under it.
And we just got out of Tron Ares.
Oh my gosh.
We've seen it, and this is our quick social reaction. It might be worse than you think it's going to be.
This was not good.
I'll say it's all...
Tron Ares coming out. A movie that I said when they first announced it, channeling my best Chris Carr, for why? Why are you making it? I wasn't a big fan of Tron Legacy.
Yeah,
I wasn't a big fan of it. I was super excited about it. Music was great. Visuals were really good. But overall, I didn't love the film. I didn't quite know why they were making another one.
Is Tron Ares already a failure dressed up in neon lights? On paper, it looked like a dream sequel. Dazzling visuals, a beloved franchise, hopes riding high. But the early reactions are brutal. Critics call it hollow. Fan discourse is causing chaos, and public perception is quietly turning. Today, we're peeling back the glossy veneer to understand why Ares is hitting such resistance, and whether there's anything worth salvaging at all. By the end, you'll see this film not just as an event, but as a cautionary reboot, a visual spectacle on the brink of collapse.
I'll say it's all in the script. The effects and action sequences actually surprisingly good. The music on the positive side, I enjoyed, but
that story. It's the story and the dialogue.
And Greta Lee is, I think, a very good actress in past lives.
Yeah.
Drama. You don't see her a lot in the trailer, and there's probably a good reason. She does not know how to do a big action movie like this.
When you reboot a cult classic, you're not just making a new film. You're walking into a trap of expectations. Tron first burst onto screens in 1982 as a radical blend of CGI and neon that felt like peering into the future. Then came Tron Legacy in 2010, which revived the franchise with even richer visuals, a pounding Daft Punk score, and deeper mythology. Fans latched on. The grid, the light cycles, the duality of man and machine. All of it developed a dedicated following.
It normally involves you cutting off people's legs. Disney's pathetic, generic, idea-free brand exploitation. A premise, but only in the same way that a fashion collection has a story. An exhausting, overproduced, nauseating, tedious sci-fi. If AI is really about to destroy Hollywood, Ares has certainly got the ball rolling on its behalf. A great soundtrack, while the movie completely sucks. And it is tracking for a $45 million to $50 million opening, which is the same as Tron Legacy 15 years ago. Impressive, if we hadn't printed off more money than God over the last 15 years.
The problem is, those beloved elements create a gravitational pull. A new Tron must navigate the fan base's memories, the mythos, and the promise of something fresh. If it leans too heavily on what worked, it becomes a retread. If it tries to reimagine too much, it risks alienating the core. Ares enters the ring carrying 40-plus years of compounded expectations. And the gap between what fans wanted and what they got begins right there, before a single frame plays. You need to understand this burden from the start, because the story of Ares isn't just in its code, it's in how it chose to betray or honor that legacy.
I mean, even at the premiere, all of this looks kind of cool, especially that bike, but there were weaknesses, and it kind of shows itself even more when you see it move. I like those robots, it's just not really ready for prime time at the moment, is it? Much like the characters of this show. First we got pictures of the cast, which made you realize why the AI wanted to wipe out everyone on Earth. They arrived in Portland. Then you find out about the story, about how at the end of the second movie, Sam realized that he should take over his father, Kevin Klim's legacy, and build and protect the company, because it's important.
Let's be clear. Tron Ares is absolutely stunning. It comes at you with rushes of neon light, immersive IMAX sequences, and a color palette that paints every frame with intensity. The visuals are doing heavy lifting, from light cycles tearing through city streets to programs bleeding into reality. The aesthetics are often jaw-dropping. The score? Nine Inch Nails delivers one of the few parts critics universally praise. It pulses, it haunts, it elevates. But here's the catch. All that beauty is a mask. Spectacle can seduce the eye while the mind slips away. You'll find yourself watching moments where nothing happens. Characters standing in silence, exposition dropped awkwardly, plot threads dangling.
5. Screen International did not like it, writing, "For all the creativity on display in Tron Ares, it's in service of a story with scant signs of life." So there's one of those things like, hey, it looks great, weaker story. Okay. Samantha Nielsen from Polygon also did not like it, writing, "Roning's dazzling action sequences and killer soundtrack might be enough to satisfy fans, but Tron Ares feels just as likely to get lost among a sea of the type of films Tron inspired." All right, fair enough. Empire Magazine, they liked it. They said, "A few key elements keep this data file from being totally corrupted. The real MVPs, however, are Nine Inch Nails, whose staggeringly brilliant soundtrack dominates the entire proceedings."
The design distracts. It keeps your attention long enough to overlook the cracks. But once the visuals fade, the structure beneath comes into view. And that's when the film loses you. So yes, Ares is gorgeous. And yes, it's tempting to say, oh, watch it for the visuals. But that's also the trap. Because when nothing else holds up, the mask falls off. Here's where Tron Ares truly loses control of its circuitry. The story. You can forgive weak visuals. You can even forgive a few clunky lines. But when the plot itself feels like a half-coded beta version, the audience disconnects. And that's exactly what happens here.
All right, Nerdist liked it. They said, by spending less time on the grid and making a more serious film, the franchise's third installment also loses some of its wonderful silliness, but it doesn't lose all of it. In some wonderful spots, it fully embraces it. Coming Soon liked it. They said, it's a very different movie that focuses on new characters, but it all works out to create a stellar cinematic experience that should be seen on the biggest screen possible. I like the guys over Coming. New York Magazine did not like it, saying mostly when you watch Tron Ares, you become aware of the degree of which this franchise has exhausted its own metaphor. Fair enough. And Variety did not like it.
The biggest issue isn't that Ares is confusing, it's that it's hollow. The movie introduces fascinating ideas, like an AI escaping into the real world and questioning what it means to exist outside of digital perfection. That should be deep. It should make us think about what defines humanity: emotion, memory, choice. Instead, it becomes a checklist of exposition dumps that never evolve into emotion. Every scene feels like it's rushing to explain something, rather than letting us feel anything. Take Ares himself. He's designed as this hybrid, part creation, part destroyer, a being caught between the logic of machines and the chaos of humans.
It will end with Variety here. Right, so whereas the original 1982 Disney film on which it was based felt ahead of its time, Sean Bailey's latest attempt to franchiseify the Tron brand reads mostly as an exercise in nostalgia. So again, the general, you guys can agree or correct me if I'm wrong, but the general sense I'm getting from the reviews, the good and the bad, is visually really great, incredible soundtrack, kind of fun, but narratively could have, maybe should have been better, and it's not breaking any new ground.
But we never get to see that struggle. We're told he's dangerous, told he's evolving, told he's unique, yet nothing in the story ever forces him to face those claims. He moves from scene to scene like a programmed avatar, executing commands written by a screenwriter rather than instincts born from within. The character. It's ironic. The film about AI feels like it was written by one. Then there's Eve Kim, played by Greta Lee. She's the heart of the movie, or supposed to be. Her character is meant to represent humanity's desperate hope to connect with something greater than itself. But her story arc is thinly drawn. She spends most of the movie reacting instead of deciding. The best characters in cinema make choices that cost them something. Eve just follows clues, gets caught, gets rescued, and delivers exposition that sounds like it was cut straight from a corporate brief. We can't let Ares breach the grid protocol. Lines like that don't move people, they numb them. Even the pacing betrays the tension. The first act teases questions about identity and freedom. Then the second act slams the brakes. Instead of building momentum, it drowns in talk. Scene after scene feels padded with exposition nobody asked for. You get long monologues about quantum code symbiosis and existential virus convergence. The words sound cool, but they don't mean anything. You can sense the writers trying to sound profound, but the emotional core, the why behind these ideas, is missing. And then there's the ticking clock device. Ares has 29 minutes of real-world time before he ceases to exist. That's a killer concept, if it meant something. Imagine if the movie actually explored what a being would do with its final 29 minutes of life. What would you say? Who would you try to become? Instead, the script turns it into a countdown gimmick, mentioned twice and forgotten. It's a metaphor begging to be explored, but like much of Ares, it's introduced, then abandoned. The third act tries to redeem it with spectacle, explosions, light shows, gravity-defying battles, but by then, the emotional thread is gone. You don't care who wins because the story never gave you a reason to. Ares isn't fighting for freedom. Eve isn't fighting for humanity. They're just running through. Plot requirements. It's all noise and no soul. And that's the painful irony. Tron has always been about connection, human emotion inside digital perfection. Legacy gave us that balance. A father's love for his son, a program yearning for freedom. But Ares strips it down to empty circuitry. The movie that should have asked, what makes us human, ends up proving it doesn't even understand the question. So, when critics say Tron Ares looks beautiful but feels dead, this is why. The film's heart isn't broken. It was never built. In any reboot, casting is part of the narrative. Choose poorly and you carry baggage. Choose well and you can lean into what works. Ares tries both, but missteps hard. Jared Leto's casting as Ares comes with baggage. He's charismatic, unpredictable, and always polarizing. But his persona here sometimes fights with the character. Is he machine? Is he man? In performance, Leto is subdued, for better or worse. But critics call this restraint a miss. Opportunity. You never feel the inner tension. Some say he's miscast for a role that demands emotional fireworks. Others say the script never gives him room to burn. Then, there's the storm reignited off-screen. Sexual misconduct allegations from multiple women. These resurfaced right when Ares began its promotional push, especially after a Fortnite bundle tied to the film dropped. Social media blew up. Boycotts, calls for accountability, backlash over Disney not distancing itself. The timing is devastating. Even before most audiences see the film, perceptions are tainted. You'll find posts saying, "I can't support a film that fronts this narrative with that lead." The conversation shifts from Tron as sci-fi to Tron as reputation risk. That affects box office, marketing, fan goodwill, the invisible ecosystem every big film depends on. So casting is not just casting here. It's a narrative overlay. The film carries the cast's baggage like extra code in its runtime. Disney is bet big. Box office projections for Ares suggest a $45 to $50 million opening domestically, and a total global opening possibly up to $95 million. That matches where Legacy opened in its time, but the stakes are higher now. Yet the early reviews and fan reactions diverge sharply. Critics call the storytelling vapid, clunky, nostalgic pandering, while some social media reactions gush over visuals and promise. The disparity is glaring. On fan boards, you'll see defenders argue, You're just hating because you expected depth. On review aggregators, you see a middling score hovering in the low 50s. That split is critical. It means audiences will walk in carrying skepticism, or worse, bias. A film cannot thrive on visuals alone when critical mass is fractured. Disney wants spectacle and trending hashtags. Fans want the story they love, now reimagined. If Eras can't satisfy either, it loses even if it performs. Look, Eras had every advantage. Legacy IP, top-tier visuals, a hot topic, AI and a hyped musical score. But success lives in the details. And again, that's where it fails. The second act is the weakest link. That's when the conflict should heighten. Characters should feel real choices. The tension should escalate. Instead, Ares lets scenes breathe and ultimately stall. Exposition surfaces more than drama. The tonal shifts between philosophical whispers and blockbuster explosions feel inconsistent. You don't land anywhere. Then there's the missed thematic punch. With AI dominating real-world discourse, you'd expect Ares to mine deep ideas. What makes consciousness real? What's the moral cost of creating life? The film toys with these, but rarely commits. The code that governs Ares, the 29-minute survival ceiling, none of it gets philosophical weight. It's ticking time, not a dilemma. So the movie engages your sensors, not your mind. Nostalgia becomes weakness. The film leans on references, echoes, callbacks, but treats them like band-aids. If you remove them, the structure has holes. It should have used nostalgia as springboard, not scaffold. In trying to hit every classic beat, it loses its own identity. These gaps are not fixable by better CGI or sound. They require rethinking the foundations. And Ares doesn't. At this point, you might assume there's nothing good, but that'd be unfair. There are parts that flicker. Think of them like shards of potential through the wreck. First, performances. Greta Lee as Eve Kim gets praise. Many critics say she carries scenes others can't. Jodie Turner-Smith as Athena also gets moments where she stands out. Even when the script fails her, their presence offers texture. Second, the score. Nine Inch Nails is not just decoration. The music pulses. It underscores the tension. It lifts the visuals. It sometimes feels like the one character speaking. Critics agree it's one of the film's rare emotional anchors. Third, moments of brilliance. A chase here, a visual transition there, a scene where light bulbs flicker and the grid bleeds into reality. In those seconds, Ares reminds you of why Tron was beloved. You sense the bones of something that could have been exceptional. They don't dominate, but they are proof that the guts were there, somewhere behind the noise. These are not redemption, but they're not nothing. And in them lies the film's true tragedy. It had pieces capable of greatness, but it never assembled them fully. In the end, Tron. Ares is a brilliant failure. It dazzles the eye, it pulsates in sound, but it fails at the heart. It clings to legacy while betraying it. It masks weakness with spectacle, and it leaves you asking, could it ever have been different? The film may be remembered not as the triumphant return of the grid, but as a reboot that forgot to build meaning. Disney tried to resurrect Tron, but in the process, it may well have killed its soul. So here's what I want from you. Did Ares betray expectations? Or was it exactly what it was trying to be? Drop your take in the comments. If you got value from this deep dive, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.